Okay, hello everybody, welcome back to Tea and Tarot, or welcome to Tea and Tarot if you're new here. Today's video, again, is going to be a bit different. I've got some more tarot related videos for you, but it's just not a tarot reading video. So today we're going to be looking at some tarot related Reddit posts, and yeah, I'm excited to read these because I've seen like glimpses of these and I was like, ooh, I want to read more of these. So I held off for you guys. I'm going to be reading off my laptop, which is down here. Don't look at the missing sticker. You don't need to know about that. Okay, so this one says, turns out tarot reading can predict the future, and it's by Growling Giant. Sitting on a girl's bed, watching her do a tarot reading, and then whip out her laptop, and then nodding her head solemnly, pulling out her laptop, placing it on top of the tarot card, and video calling her boyfriend with zero warning to break up with him while I'm still in the room with her. Okay, it's not funny, but it is also kind of funny. I feel like I could do a tarot reading for myself, and it might say like, girl, this is not the one for you, break up with him, and I still wouldn't. I'd be like disappointed, I'd still feel my feelings, I'd still feel hurt and be like, why? But I wouldn't actually go out there and break up with that person based on that. I hope no one does that when they watch my readings, because sometimes I am like, the cards are saying like you need to cut something toxic out of your life, and that could be a person, but at the end of the day only you know that. It could also be like a habit or like a, you know, something you're doing, like maybe you doom scroll before bed and that's something you have to cut out of your life to like have a good night's sleep. Like it could be things as simple as that. I really hope nobody actually goes and like breaks up with anybody based on anything they've heard in like my readings, because that's not like the goal. I don't want anyone to blow up their relationships that may or may be good. You know, if they're bad, then, you know, do what you gotta do. But I hope nobody does that. That is so funny though. Just I love women. We're so amazing. The post continued and it said, if I knew this post was gonna spread around, I would include the fact that the reason that we hooked up afterwards is because she proceeded to do a tarot reading on me, looked at the cards and very solemnly said, I think the cards are telling me one night stand. Girl, if you're solemn about it, don't do it. What the fuck? Like, that is so funny. If, you know what, if cards say anything like that, like, whether you're happy about it or not, always take it with like a pinch of salt, because, or a grain of salt, whatever the saying is. I always do, like, because I get like readings like that where I'm like, what is it saying to me right now? But like, I'm not like, yeah, that's 100% gonna happen. Like sometimes there's hit or miss, sometimes there's no message for you. To be honest, for me, I feel like it's just when you pull a card and it happens to relate to your situation, it can be really nice to have the advice from that card. But if it doesn't relate, then it's like not for me. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, I mean, I've never done a personal reading for myself that didn't relate, but I've had readings from other people that didn't relate, and I just like don't take it. But I'm sure if I'm doing tarot readings for other people, there will be times where it doesn't relate for them, and you know, that's fair. I feel like everyone should just get their own tarot deck and do their own, because it's like it's more accurate, and I feel like you end up having like a good time. You just need like one deck and then just use it whenever you want, you know? Yeah, and someone commented, trying to read tarot is really fun when you don't know what you're doing. So if you've drawn like the Chariot, you're going to be like, oh, I think I'm going to be driving somewhere. And that's not like how that works. So it does sound like she was taking it too literally. So this post is by Manga Guitar 96, and the title is, What's Your 100% Crazy Accurate Tarot Card Reading Story? Okay, so this one is by Mystic Key. I think I've said that right. It's Key as in Kei. And it says, when I was a teen, I developed a crush on a slightly older, more mature than my former boyfriend, Guy. We frequently flirted and things were going perceptively well between us, but every time I did a reading about him, almost daily, if not more, I got the Fool card. Originally, I thought it meant I was being foolish for pursuing a rebound relationship, but the card seemed persistent to represent him specifically. This was pre-internet. My only references were my 2 books that came with the decks and my notes from when I was taught, so I was reluctant to progress the relationship. After a bit, life took over and I had to focus on other things and move on. A few years later, when I was in town, I ran into him. He was still chasing teen girls. It doesn't make me say, dang, I'm good, but it was definitely crazy accurate. Yeah, that's definitely nothing to do with her. Like, if there's some older guy who's like chasing teenagers and being a creep, he's obviously not mature enough to get someone his own age. That's not on her. So I would highly doubt the Fool card is representing her. Probably 100% represents him, and it's probably much more literal. And it's also probably more calling him like naive and also warning her of pitfalls. But that is, I feel like that happens a lot. Like, sometimes I'll be doing a tarot reading about a specific person and there's a card that will like always come out for that person. This isn't for everybody, but there are certain people that I've done readings where I'm like, what's going on here? And I'll pull the card and it's always the same card for them. Tarot can be spooky like that. This one is by Isa Boobers. Yeah. And it says, the 2 times I've pulled the 5 of Pentacles in the future tense, I've had my wallet stolen within 24 hours. Last time I pulled the card, I straight up just didn't go out. I love that. It's warning you, you know, it helped to prevent you from potentially getting robbed the next time. Somebody named Revenge of Kitten Head says, not readings I have done, where there have indeed been some interesting ones, but by far the craziest was one someone else did for me. There were tons of pentacles. She predicted I would meet a man the following spring and that money would be a big part of our relationship. They were using the Morgan Greer deck, and one of the cards was the Knight of Pentacles, which was to represent him. March of the next year, I started a relationship with a man, and a big part of our early relationship was trying to start a production company together. We got a joint bank account. He is a Taurus and looks exactly like the man on the Morgan Greer Knight of Pentacles. That was over 9 years ago, and we have been married for 5 years. That one's cute. I like that one came true, because I feel like sometimes some of them are just so accurate and really hit, but sometimes I do feel like some readings are just like, it can depend, because like one time I had this reading and it was like talking about things that, like, scenarios that could happen, but it said this is 2D, so it's not ever going to become like a reality. It's more like in your mind kind of thing, which I thought was really interesting, because I feel like sometimes readings are about more what you're thinking about and less about what might happen in the future, if that makes sense. It's focusing on you and trying to get you to figure out why you're feeling that way or thinking those things. So it's interesting that this reading was very much about the 3D. This one's by Bonita Vanilla 558. And it says, this one time I read this girl's cards casually after a night out and said, I see you might have an accidental pregnancy or a pregnancy scare. She said it wasn't possible due to various reasons. Weeks later, she got pregnant. See, these are like the really spooky ones. Like, I hope I don't ever speak that into existence, because ain't nobody want that right now. But, or ever. But that is crazy, because she felt like so strongly that was not a possibility due to like various reasons, which is really valid, and yet this card said otherwise, and then that happened. So it's just like sometimes it's very, very spooky. Okay, this one is by Theo Died. I'll never forget one of the first readings I did for someone over the internet. A querent asked about a breakup she had recently gone through. I can't remember the cards, this was years ago, but it was clear to me from the get-go of the cards that she was a third party, so I framed the reading around that. There were other details, but I can't remember much more than that. I sent the reading off, very nervous, and I didn't hear back from her, so I figured I must have been wrong. Maybe doing tarot for others isn't my forte. 1 month go by and I hear back from the querent. She admits that the reading didn't resonate with her at first, but then later found out that her ex-boyfriend was 1, gay, and 2, had been in a long-term relationship with another man, so she was the third party. I've had eerie moments since. I now read professionally part-time, but this one sticks out to me because it made me realise I could trust my intuition and the cards and to keep my ego out of the equation. That's so interesting. There have been times where like I've done a reading for an individual online where like if I've not heard back, I do also wonder like, did it hit too close to home or does it not resonate? Because like, you know, I want to know kind of how that went. I remember someone did like a reading for somebody. They borrowed one of my tarot decks for it, and the cards were so harsh, but it was the same thing every time. They used like a bunch of different decks, same card, same meaning every single time. It was basically like the goal, you've got your like hopes and dreams set on is not going to be the one that is for you. There's actually another goal you don't see that's really amazing, you're going to love it, but it's not what you're focused on right now. And every single card said this, and she was specifically asking about this goal because this was important to her, and it was so harsh because it was like, do you tell her that or not? Because that's what the cards are saying. Never heard back, but always wondered. And I just feel like, yeah, sometimes it's like, does it hit too close to home or is it really on point? Okay, so this one is by Reasonable Method 4291, and it says, do you believe in tarot cards? And so obviously lots of people have responded, and someone called Ginger Minx 6 said, yes, I believe in tarot cards. Do I believe that people can use them to predict the future? No, I don't. I have had my own readings and not one thing came true. And somebody has responded to that and said, and they're called Seven and a Switchblade. And they said, I read tarot, and there are two kinds of tarot readers. The first is the person who will read your cards and go, so you will have 2 sons and a daughter. You'll get that job you want. You'll eventually wind up living in Spain, and your grandmother will, blah, blah, blah. These are the BS readers. They're not reading the cards. They're just conning you by making you think they can see the future. The second kind will be more vague and admit that the cards have several interpretations, i.e. your life is stagnant because of some internal conflict, possibly a poor sense of self-esteem, possibly fear of moving away from people and things that give you comfort. But if you can move past this obstacle, your future looks bright and prosperous. These readers have taken the time to understand the subjectivity behind the readings and aren't lying directly to your face to look cool. I don't believe that the cards can literally predict the future, but I think they can be used as a tool that gives some rationality to the seemingly blind chaos of the universe and helps people get the confidence to manifest their own destiny. That's 100% how I feel about tarot as well. I feel like when I started to get into tarot readings, and basically I just felt like they helped to boost my self-esteem, especially during like dark times. Everyone always turns to like spirituality during dark times, but like if you're sort of going through something and you just want to know it's going to be bright at the other end, like tarot was like a fun thing to get into that kind of gave you that confidence. That's how I felt personally, and that's kind of what I wanted to do. But I didn't want to jump straight into tarot reading without knowing what I was doing. So I spent the first like 7 years learning tarot readings, learning how to do them, learning about the cards and things, because I wanted to make sure I knew every possible version and interpretation of the cards. I still don't, but I know most of them enough to give a reading, but obviously there's so many different interpretations out there that I don't know all of them, but I do know most of them. And I do just try and give people the explanation of the card, as many like variations as possible, so that you can kind of take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Basically, I'm very against that first type of reading that they sort of said, where people are like, oh yeah, you're definitely gonna have a child and move to Spain. Like, that's too, if you're like, oh, this specific thing is gonna happen to you, I worry about getting people's hopes up and disappointing them. So even if I'm like thinking, oh, that is definitely what this card is saying, I kind of don't want to say that, just because I don't want to mislead anybody or hurt anybody's feelings, or like encourage them to do anything reckless that doesn't like align with what they want. I definitely resonate with the second one, but I will say there have been times where other people have given me a reading where they've been really specific and I've been like, I hope not, and it actually came true and I was like, oh, god damn. So sometimes, like, I also feel like those people are BSing, but then at the same time, a part of me is like, but what if, because of those other people where they were not BSing and it did come true? And I'm like, what if though? Like, I'm always like a little bit like a little bit believing, a little bit not. Like, I'm skeptical and I'm like, this is BS, but then sometimes I'm like, okay, you're legit. Because there was this reader, and I will tell you this story now, it's a personal story of mine. But there's a tarot reader on YouTube. She's not posted in a while. I've actually not watched her in a hot minute, actually. So I don't know if her videos still align with me. But at the time, like, she was a really great reader for me. I definitely switch who I'm kind of interested in, like, reading from. Like, getting readings from. So, like, I think when I first really liked YouTube tarot readings, because I've always been into tarot since I was, like, a child because of my mum. But when I got into, like, YouTube-specific tarot readings, I think she was called the Gem Goddess. But then I actually ended up preferring the Crystal Girl. And the Crystal Girl gave a tarot reading one time before she even started the video. I don't remember what video this was, by the way, guys, but I just felt drawn to it, clicked on it. Before she even started doing the reading, she said, I just want to say that for some reason, I'm feeling like some of you are going to get a job, and I'm picturing like a house that's a restaurant, and it's small and it's like wooden and it has like a pink door, but it's like a house and a restaurant at the same time. And she was like, I just feel like you're going to get a job there. That day I'd been for an interview at a small little house in a market with a pink door, and it was like shaped like a house, but it was a restaurant. And I got the job. So that was 100% for me, and it was so specific that, like, if you'd gotten it and not been to that interview, you know, for me, if I hadn't been to that interview, I would have been like, that's BS, like, or that's not for me. But I had been there, and so when she said that, I was like, how the hell did she know that? And it was so spooky that I listened to the whole goddamn reading because I was like, all of this is for me. And I listened to the reading, and the reading did say, it was either that one or the next one said, like, you're gonna lose your job in like 3 months. And not that one, sorry, I remember it now. So she said that, got that job, cool, whatever. But then later I got a new job in a field I'm really interested in and that I wanted to sort of stay in. And it was a startup, so not a lot of money going around, but they thought, you know, they had budgeted, they'd planned, and they were like, we could hire someone new. They hired me. I did a tarot reading with her again, and she said, you're going to lose your job in 3 months. And I was like, I'm not going to claim that because I'm loving this job and I don't want to leave. 3 months time, lost my job. Had to go on gardening leave because they ran out of monies. So ended up getting a different job, still in a similar field that I'm interested in. And again, even though that was so specific and so eerily accurate, you know, a part of you would be like, no, but then like it actually came true, and I was like, god damn, like it was not what I wanted to hear. The first one I wanted to hear, the second one I didn't want to hear. But they both came true, and so I was like, wow, this girl's spookily accurate. But then over time, I actually ended up currently really preferring the White Feather Tarot. So good. Love her videos. But I feel like I change tarot readers all the time because, like, just sometimes you're vibing with them and sometimes you're not, and sometimes they're putting out content you're interested in and sometimes they're not. Like, if tarot readers are too focused on, like, topics I'm not interested in, I'll eventually have to kind of shift on to someone who's doing things I'm more interested in. And the White Feather Tarot does, like, such an array of videos, and they're so, like, vague in the sense that it's like, what 3 important things do you need to know? I'm interested in that. I want to know. Like, you've piqued my interest. Whereas if it's like, your soulmate wants you to know this or whatever, I don't really enjoy those ones. I feel like it's too specific. I want to have like a clean slate and have you tell me what important things I need to know, basically. So I just really like hers at the minute. But I will say, with the Crystal Girl, she's probably the only one who has said things that have like actively come true for me. And the other tarot readers I've listened to, they've said things that are really accurate to my psyche, like to my own mentality and the things I think about, or the ambitions I have. They were really on point. Like, I think the Gem Goddess at one point was like, girl, you have a book to write it. And I was like, because I do. I have several books to write and I'm not writing them. So, you know, they have also said accurate things, but I just thought that Crystal Girl restaurant house thing was just out of this world. Very, very good. I have 100%, I was like, okay, cool. So she's like really intuitive then. Because I definitely do feel like there's that side to tarot of like people being genuinely like gifted and intuitive. Of course, anyone can like pick up a tarot deck and we all do have some level of intuition, but there are some people that are just like so on point. This other person called But Her Scotch says, but I'm not going to get into the full story because it's quite long, but it says tarot cards aren't used to predict specific future events, nor are they unequivocally bullshit, as another user very charmingly phrased it. Tarot is like any other superstition, from the Bible to astrology. It's a tool for self-reflection, which I do agree. It's weird they popped the Bible in there though, because I would personally say the Bible, astrology, and tarot are 3 very different things. But I would say like tarot reading and astrology doesn't, the people who sort of are into those don't really carry the power of the people that are into more like into an actual religion. Of course, astrology and tarot reading can definitely be a part of people's religious practices, but individually on their own, they are not religious if you practice them. So there's not the weight of power behind that and responsibility, but definitely I would say all these things are tools for self-reflection, for figuring out who you are, your morals, your values, where you stand in life, those kind of things. So I would definitely agree there. Invalid Sports Opinion said, let me preface by saying I don't believe in astrology, but we live in a world where so many of us are so idle. It's so easy not to live our lives. If someone is using tarot as a means to help direct their lives in times of uncertainty, I see nothing wrong with that, so long as you aren't being instructed by the cards to like invest your 401k in crypto. I 100% agree, like don't do any drastic decisions based on tarot, but at the same time I think it is really good for direction, because I feel like, as I said, you know, with the book thing where they were like, girl, you need to write your book, I was sitting on that resting, not doing nothing, and then the more tarot readings I do where they're like, hey, you need to be doing that, the more it was like building up my confidence, my drive, my inspiration to go and do it. And so I'd actually get up and do it. And like starting a YouTube channel as well, a few of the videos were like, you need to start a YouTube channel, and it was something I've wanted to do since I was like 11 but never actually had the confidence to go and do. And only recently, about almost just under a year ago, recently did I feel like, okay, now I could do it. And it was because of all those videos sort of hyping me up and being like, girl, go do it. It boosted my confidence. And I think that's a really nice thing about tarot, is that it can drive your ambition and make you go after the things you want, because a lot of the cards are, you have a goal, you need to put that goal into action and go after it. Like a lot of the cards' meanings are, write your goal down on paper, write out a plan and go and achieve it. You know, a lot of them are like that, or it's like, girl, you're so successful and you don't even see it, boost your confidence a bit, and then you get another card that's like, now go out there and achieve it. And those are like the structures of most of the cards. Or it might just acknowledge you're having like a hard time and you need like support, and to take time out and do yoga or meditation or use your journal, and all of these things help to like, you know, regulate your nervous system. If you're slowing down, doing yoga, meditating, writing in a journal, just that act of slowing everything down is regulating your nervous system, making you feel better. So like a lot of these things have like a really positive impact on you, and then most of like tarot card meanings will advise you to go and do these things, so it can be good for you in that sense. Scooby Dooba says, what's the best way to learn tarot for a complete beginner? And Munchkins OG says, the best thing I did was reading for other people, studying the cards while reading their definitions, and also reading these subs as well, the subreddits. Randy Truman said, lots of practice, you should record what you do in a notebook, write down what card you got, the question, as well as your interpretation. So I definitely agree with that one. That's kind of what I did. So I would do a lot of readings for myself. I would say practice on yourself is the best way to teach you, because then you're going to remember it, because you're going to attach your own meanings to it, if that makes sense. So I kept pulling the Lighthouse. I almost always get the Lighthouse from my Harmony Tarot deck. And that made me really know this card in and out, through and through, and that is the Tower card. So I would definitely say, like, practice on yourself, keep a journal, write down the definitions and meanings. But I would also say try and figure out your own interpretation. I think something that's really nice and unique about modern tarot reading is that there's so many of us doing it. You can do like, get any tarot readings from anybody. So at the end of the day, you could get the definitions anywhere. You could get them online, you could get them from buying your own tarot deck, you could get them from tarot readers. So I think a really nice thing about having all these options is getting that person's personal interpretation of that tarot card from them. So like, yes, the Tower card might mean, you know, a tumultuous event, destruction, rebuilding. But to me, it could mean other things. Like, it could mean like focusing on something still to keep you stable during a tumultuous time. Like the Lighthouse, it has the light to keep you focused during the storm as you're like riding through the waves on a boat. Like, it's about keeping a focus during rough times. So for me, that's like a personal interpretation that I could give you. Also, I also sometimes interpret the Lighthouse or the Tower card as, if you're asking about a person, I would say they're somebody who doesn't look like who they are, if that makes sense. Like, they're a little bit rough around the edges, but on the inside they're a gem. You know what I mean? Like, they look like they've been through a lot, but they're a very like calm, cool, collected person, in my personal opinion. And so that's how I would interpret it personally, and I like to give my personal interpretations when I do readings, because you could get those like more traditional interpretations anywhere, and I'll still give those to you, but I'd also like to put my own little spin on it. So work on interpreting it yourself and figuring that out, and figuring out what the cards mean to you. And you can do that by sort of looking at the card and looking at the images on it. As I said, the lighthouse aspect, that light in the darkness, signified something to focus on that's positive, to bring you out of the darkness. Something still, something, you know, stable. You could also focus on the colours, like the dark blue of the lighthouse card was very like subdue, and like, but also it had like a essence of like the moon card for me, because it's like the dark blue sky with stars and a moon in it, so it also has an air of mystery around it, of you not knowing the future outcome of the situation. You can look at the little symbols on the cards and think about what they mean to you. If you see roses, does that mean love for you? What does that mean, you know? For me, when I see bouquets, I always think 2 gifts, you're going to get 2 gifts, and also secret admirers. So those are my personal interpretations of those symbols. So I'd say try and work out your own thing. Instead of focusing so hard on the traditional, focus on the thing that makes it personal, because anyone can get a reading from anyone anywhere. So it's good to get something completely unique from each person, if that makes sense. Also, I would say YouTube videos. There are some YouTubers who put out like definitions, who are like, come and read tarot readings with me in 30 minutes or less, or whatever, or let me teach you tarot in 30 minutes or less. Those can be pretty good as well. I've not actually managed to get through one. I have one saved to my watch later that I saved in there like literally 7 years ago, and I haven't managed to watch it all the way through because I get distracted by other things. But they can definitely be good. Like the one I was watching was pretty good. So there are definitely some good resources out there. Someone said I'm making a tarot deck of ghost types. This is amazing. So one thing that really helps me with tarot is me making my own decks. I do this personally. I have them and I use them for me, but I don't actually include them in the readings. I've recently included the one I'm working on right now in some of my readings online. But when I do personal readings, I have an oracle deck that I made for myself that I only keep for me and don't really show off, just because like it makes it feel more personal and magic. I have such a spooky story around that. I can't believe I forgot that. I'll have to include that in my ghost story video. But yeah, so I just remembered. But I would definitely say making your own deck is a great thing to try and teach you the tarot, because you'll look up and you'll research that tarot card to come up with your tarot card that you're making. So that is a fantastic way to do it if you're a bit artsy and crafty, you know. You could knit your own tarot decks or something, like knit a tarot deck blanket and figure it out. Like whatever your craft is, you could try and do it in that way. Or you could make up a dance for the tarot readings, or like a song for each tarot card, like, you know, stuff like that. Whatever your form of art is. So those are all the stories that I have today to look at. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like it, comment, subscribe. If you don't subscribe, what are you doing? Grow up. You're childish. You need to grow up and subscribe to my channel. No, I'm joking. Do what you want. If you just want to watch the video and not like it and not give it a thumbs up and not subscribe, that is absolutely okay. Just go on your day, have a nice time, remember me, and come back. Even if you don't subscribe, you have to come back to this channel, because otherwise, you know, you're gonna miss all of my videos and my readers, and you don't want that. I don't want that for you, because you're gonna miss out on a lot. So, you know, you should really do yourself a favour and come back to this channel. If not, I hope to see you here next week on Fridays for another reading or another video from TìandTarot, aka me, aka Katie. And I do my tarot readings sometimes with my cat. My cat will pop in and tap your cards, or like walk all over them. So, you know, if you want to see her and get like a little reading from her by her just being in the room and her presence sort of, you know, giving your cards a little bit of good luck, then definitely check my channel out in the future. And I hope to see you here next week on Fridays for another reading or video from TìandTarot.